Well, thank you, Stephanie, and the entire Urban Land Institute team. It's an absolute pleasure and honor to be here today with all of you. It's an incredible group, as you can see, and I know it's going to be an exciting panel regarding Live Local. As some of you, hopefully most of you know, Live Local started back in 2023 vis-a-vis the Live Local Act, also known as Senate Bill 102, and since then has undergone 2 amendments to the important legislation that's really meant to boost and preserve affordable housing throughout the state of Florida, and one of the more exciting legislative accomplishments seen in the past, not only a couple of years, but for the sake of the affordable housing industry, probably in the history of the state of Florida. And in that light, it's really exciting to be up here today with this phenomenal and esteemed group of panelists to talk about what their firms are doing, not only in Fort Lauderdale, but throughout South Florida as it relates to Live Local and the different projects that they're executing on. So again, my name is Alfonso Costa Jr. I serve as the Chief Operating Officer of the Falcone Group. We're a real estate investment and development firm based in Boca Raton, but active throughout not only Florida, the entire country. And I'll let each of the panelists introduce themselves. Kate, start with you.
Okay, great. I'm Kate Murphy. I am the president of Murphy Property Group. We're a small, privately held real estate investment company that was born of my father's 40-year legacy of real estate in South Florida. We are principally focused on office and multifamily from Virginia down to Florida. The office is where we're focused on delivering professional, results-driven office product that reflects the needs of today's office market as opposed to pre-COVID. And on the multifamily, we're specifically focused on workforce housing and providing workforce housing in areas of the country that offer good employment trends and higher barriers to entry.
Thank you, Kate. Russell?
Thank you, Alfonso. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming today, and especially Stephanie and the entire ULI team. They really do an incredible job, and we really owe them a round of applause. I have to commend them. They're true leaders in urban land planning. They're not prejudicial in any way. You can't hire them. They really just deal with what is right for communities, and I think that's really beneficial. My name is Russell Galvin. I'm managing principal at Crescent Heights. We build high-rise residential in gateway cities all around America. We've deployed a few times out of America. We love what we do. We build beautiful housing. We're used to building in areas where you have BMR units, below market rate units. We think that Live Local is one of the smartest legislative acts that's ever been created by a legislation that's extremely intelligent. We believe that cities and communities that buy into it will ultimately do better. Those who fight it will ultimately do worse. We're proud to be here today, and thank you all for that. One of the more interesting things that we're doing more recently is we have an incredible ship, the Navigator, that is run as part of the Region 7 Seas lines. We've now made that into a residential home community, and it's one of our more exciting projects. It's not on the agenda today, but I couldn't help but get it in somehow. Thank you all for coming today.
Thank you, Russell. Jerome?
Hi, Jerome Broman, founder, CEO of Moderno Development Group. So first, let me take the chance also thanking Stephanie to take her here, that my 15 years of real estate career, I owe her a lot for helping me and guiding me through different situations. Thank you, Stephanie. And Moderno Development Group, we develop mainly high-rise multifamily buildings. We recently completed a river loft in downtown Fort Lauderdale, just south of the river. It's a 352 unit market rate building, which we are looking into right now, converting some of the units into the Live Local pool, especially the smaller studios seem to be fit very good for that product. And we just got recently approved by the city of Fort Lauderdale for Art House. It's 265 units. 72 of them are going to be Live Local units, so it's a hybrid building, market rate, Live Local, and also the Broward and City of Fort Lauderdale Act, the Geller Act. So 40 of the units will be Geller Act, 30 will be additional for Live Local for a total of 70. So it's kind of a double dip on both programs. And I'm also a co-partner in Milas LP, which we're building single family, kind of mid-luxury neighborhoods, in urban cores, only focus in South Florida on both companies.
Thank you.
Hi there. Again, Stephanie, thank you. You're not going to get away with it, you know. But I'm the founder and CEO of Fuse Group. We are based here in Fort Lauderdale, in what I'm continuing to enjoy and seeing as a city that grows and develops and becomes the epicenter of events like this and development like this. Fuse Group is a direct lender. We provide bridge financing and construction financing for projects all around the United States, with heavy concentration here in Florida. We are also a developer. We develop our own properties. We are heavily invested in Fort Lauderdale, in Progresso area, Sistrunk, and developing over there, when all said and done, probably about 1,000 units, and some commercial spaces, lifestyle. So we see the world both as a lender, we see the world as a developer. We also like to try to bridge between the two and make sense out of the two sides of the equation. In terms of Live Local, I'm excited to be here and talk about it. I do tend to agree that it's an amazing opportunity, and hopefully we'll see that as a concept, it's welcomed as a legislation. It's welcomed by municipalities and being pushed rather than being explored in a challenging way.
Well, thank you for that, everybody. And I think that what's really great about this group up here is that they're able to speak on real life projects that are getting done vis-a-vis Live Local, because a lot of us that read about it and hear about it aren't exactly sure how it's getting done, when it's getting done, whether it's existing projects or new builds. So it's going to be really important today to hear some of the more detail-oriented facts associated with a lot of these projects that are going on. So we're pretty much going to go down the line and have each of the panelists describe in detail, again, how, where, why, when you're getting deals done. I know, Duran, you already mentioned briefly how you're utilizing the Geller Act in addition to Live Local incentives, but we're going to take the next 10 or so minutes to have each of the panelists, one by one, talk through for a few minutes what and how they're executing on their Live Local oriented projects. So Kate, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Okay. So we are building a project in on South Andrews. I'll just affectionately refer to it as South Andrews for now. It's going to be between 800 and 900 units in 2 phases, with Live Local units reserved a minimum of 40%, Live Local 1 to 3 bedroom units. Why? The location could not be more needed for this kind of housing. We are catty corner to Broward Health's headquarters. We are less than a mile to the port, and we're about 2 miles from the airport. So 3 specified, employment drivers that are in very close proximity. While we were going through the process, it turned out that if Coastal Link ever gets moving forward, one of the stops will be adjacent to this site as well, making it even more of a reason to provide affordable housing for that, at least for the missing middle. Of course, there will be mixed use component, ancillary uses to the surrounding community. And that's a little bit about our project. It was designed by FSNY, and Stephanie's helping us with it. So thank you, Stephanie, for asking me here today.
No, thank you. And on that, Kate, can you talk a little bit about the timing of the project, where you are, and how it's permitting?
I would say if construction costs hadn't gone up and the interest rates had stayed low, we'd be in a different, no, I'm just kidding. We're in the planning process right now. We have already submitted to the city. We have some work to do on tweaking some things, and we'll be going back into the city very shortly.
Fantastic, thank you. Russell?
So we have over 20 projects in Live Local, and I will tell you that only 1 out of 10 projects really could and does qualify for Live Local. The three things that you get out of Live Local, the legislation itself, is promptness of review and a professional review. That's done internally by professionals in the municipality where you're at. So it's quickness to deliver entitlements. When you're in the real estate world, money counts, time counts. They both equal each other, and time kills many great projects. We're very, very excited about our project here in Fort Lauderdale. We actually have several, but today we'll just talk about one, the Galleria. Most of you know the Galleria. It was truly a magical place in the 1980s, 1990s. It's a place that everybody went to as well. Unfortunately, it didn't do well in the last 30 years. We really have some incredible plans to bring it back, to make it a 24-hour community with residences, with people. The mall itself will be re-tenanted, brought back together. It's really one of the more exciting projects of my career. I've been building condominiums in South Florida for 50 years. I built my first condominium in 1975. And I can tell you, it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. That first condominium, I submitted on a Monday with 7 pages. It was a 5-story, still up, still erected today, and I got up my permit on a Thursday. I was told by that municipality in an effort to expedite things, they were going to change things. Today, that municipality would require about 700 pages for the same 5-story building and about 9 months to get approval. Time kills all projects. Live Local is truly an answer to 3 things. The first is time to delivery, time to approval. The second is affordability, and the third is traffic. And if you're in South Florida, you have traffic, no matter where you are. So if you can provide a 24-hour community where people who work live in that same community, get rid of cars off the road, you're dealing with traffic, you're dealing with affordability, and you're dealing with time to complete an approval process. That's what Live Local is all about. Thank God for our state legislature, it actually works. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Russell. Duran?
Yeah, so our first Live Local project that we're looking right now, Riverlots, obviously was planned, started construction in 2022. There was no Live Local at that time, so it's not a classic Live Local, but you can apply some of your units, up to minimum 70 units, into the Live Local pool. It's only a 3-year commitment versus a 30-year commitment in a regular project that goes Live Local from the beginning, from the planning stage. But you get the same subsidy, you give the same rent subsidies, and you get the same 75% tax benefit on 120% AMI. So we're talking about aiming units at people making around $90,000 a year. So it's kind of a higher blue collar crowd. And we actually found out by the way, a lot of our residents already fit that criteria. So it's worthwhile for us to lower the rent a little bit more and get the tax benefit from the city. And that additional discount of $100, $200 in rent means a lot for those people. So they would be so let's say a studio instead of $2,400 will be $2,200. They would be very happy to get. The second project that we have that we're probably start construction 12 to 18 months from now, right next to Riverlots, called Art House. Actually, Stephanie directed us to a local act. I think we might be the first ones in Fort Lauderdale using it, called the Geller Act, and where the city and the county basically give you a big discount on impact fees, like $10,000 per unit. So if you're building 270 units, you're getting a $2.7 million discount on impact fees, as long as you provide 15% of your units to workforce housing, which is just like Live Local. And with the same price guidelines as Live Local, but then if you add another 30 units and you go to 70 units, you can actually add that to the Live Local pool. So you get a double dip. You get a discount on the impact fees, you get 75% on the property tax of those specific units, and it makes a lot of sense. Also, that neighborhood where we're talking south of the river, it's not Las Olas, the price is a little bit below Las Olas area, so it fits the crowd there. We'd like to see some more blue-collar residents enter the neighborhood, police officers, people from the hospitals, from the airport, we're getting people apply for that. And I can say right now, as was mentioned, most projects don't pencil in today. So I think without the Live Local Act, that gives you that additional income that maybe the project will pencil in. It's hard anyway, but that like almost every project we're looking at, we're looking at adding a Live Local component to.
That's great, thank you. And I think it's really important to note that you hear from most folks up here that without Live Local or without matching it with another incentive like the Geller Act, that these units wouldn't otherwise be built. And I think what's really important in the context and conversation regarding Live Local is that not only are you all and us as a community providing attainable and workforce housing capped at 120% of AMI rent thresholds, but you're producing supply overall. And as an industry, the more we keep talking about only building affordable housing versus building more housing so that we increase affordability in general and focusing on supply in general, we're going to continue to have this issue of demand supply imbalance and have the affordable crisis that we have. So I appreciate those comments. Eyal?
So with regards to our project, it also started as a non-Live Local project and went through some transformation, and we're going through a process right now where we are about to submit a Live Local project, and looking forward for that experience, hopefully a good and positive one with the city that we are very well familiar and very excited to present it. Our first project, the Arcadian, is going to be finished by the end of this year, at least phase 1. Phase 2 is going to be done at the beginning of Q1. This is a 502 unit development with a parking garage. And it's right on Avenue of the Arts in Sistrunk. We are very excited about this project. It's been about 10 years that we've been involved in that area. We started acquiring in 2016, and the decision was made after we realized that there is a lot of vacant land on Sistrunk and a very rich history, which got our creative juices flowing. And we feel that this project, as a first one we're delivering, have some unique characteristics that will trickle and continue to trickle, to the next projects. Like I said, when all said and done, we're hoping to bring to the area 1,000 units. We are experiencing the Live Local project process, I should say, first time, and. We've seen, at least as a developer, but we've seen it a lot of time as a lender as well, which been a very interesting process. We've seen that, at least at the beginning when it was announced, it was the buzzword, everything Live Local, everything that's it, every project now becomes Live Local. And we realized that unlike the myth, doesn't mean that everything that is bigger is better. We saw that a lot of projects were very aspirational. We still see it. And I think, Russell, you mentioned that 1 out of 10, I don't know the statistics, but definitely a lot of projects that can become a Live Local project will not work. It's a very challenging financial environment where this legislation came to address one key factor, time. And as long as it's really being focused on, and municipalities work hand in hand with developers on that factor, I think it has a real big win for everybody, for municipalities, for future residents, for developers, and the success of these developments are something that we believe will have a better shot at continuing, because there is one thing we don't control. From the moment that we submit until the moment it's approved. This is something that can take a month, 2 months, a year and a half. We go into this process without full control. Our projects are strictly geared to workforce housing. Nothing that we do is aiming towards something that is more than 120% of AMI. And this is a decision we've made based on the fact that there is plenty of developments for the higher end of the spectrum of the market. And we want to tackle the area that is in the middle of the road. And we're looking forward to do that. And seeing a community develops west of the tracks on Sistrunk.
Well, thank you for that. And I want to go back to something you mentioned, obviously given that you're both on the development side, but act as a bridge lender or lender in general. How do you view the underwriting perspective and wearing two different hats, looking at Live Local in your projects? Having that perspective, that's a unique one to have.
So feasibility is becoming critical, obviously. So I can say that I've seen projects that were approved projects in the Tri-County area, I'll leave it at that. And when challenges on the financial side came, interest rates, construction costs, and so forth, we've seen a lot of projects came back to the drawing board, trying to reinvent themselves, trying to figure out, okay, can we create value all of a sudden? And we see some projects that mix affordability with high-end condos. We see projects that attempt to double the size to a point that in geographic locations, in pockets that we don't even believe that they will find sufficient clientele that fits the mold. So it's you're wearing all of a sudden your developer hat and trying to get into their shoes when you do the underwriting as a lender, trying to understand if a project like this can even work, and a lot of times it won't work. As affordability and high-end luxury don't always mix. And so some of these projects will never match. You know, the lender will never find the lender, will never find the buyer, will never, come to life, but on paper they look wonderful. And from an architectural perspective, it's a phenomenal experiment, but to bring it to life is challenging.
Ron, were you going to say something?
Yeah, well, regarding the lending, I think for us as a developer, when you look at a project and you underwrite it and you take into account all the benefits that might come with Live Local, most lenders, as we hear and we talk, are not really accepting the various tax benefits that you might be getting along the way. So you're underwriting a certain way, and then a lender comes and says, I Live Local, like, I'm not sure, I don't want to take that into account, I'm going to take it out, it's a new project, we've never done it before. And then you've taken a risk where you've developed a product with a certain cash flow, and the lender might come and say, well, we don't see it the same way, we're not sure about Live Local. I'm hoping it's going to change as more and more projects go out of the way, it's a new project. But I've been hearing from a lot of developers issues on that side of things.
Yeah, I think especially working with the agencies, being Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac on takeouts, and then HUD as well, both on the new construction and the takeout side. It's more of an educational process, similar to what in the state of Texas, a lot of developers working with those agencies on the public benefit corporations or the housing finance corporations with the tax exemptions associated with those projects. It seems like we have a similar educational process that we as a community need to partake in order to get everyone on the same page and make sure that the underwriting sizes those tax exemptions accordingly so that our cash flow matches with what the lenders are expecting. Russell, with all the projects that you have going on, including the Galleria, what have you been most excited about in terms of bringing Live Local to those projects, especially because a lot of what you do drives economic development. It's more than just about putting a roof over someone's head. It really drives community and economic vitality overall. What excites you most about having Live Local be a component of that?
I think the most exciting piece is quickness to approval. I said time is money and money is time. I think we get three things out of Live Local. We get to deal with traffic, we get to deal with affordability, and most importantly, we get to be able to get an approval process in an expedited way. I think that there's not enough paid attention to it. First of all, as I said to you, I think only 1 out of 9 projects that we've ever looked at works for Live Local. So it's really a small percentage, and the reason for that is you have 60% of your building that has to be able to pay for the other 40% of your building, because it's very hard to make a Live Local, just a workforce housing building work if you don't have other incentives there. So it just doesn't work that way. But I would say this, is that the best way to build a building, and I've built quite a few buildings and I've converted quite a few buildings. In fact, Crescent Heights was America's largest conversion company. I can tell you that it's in paper and pencil. Because if it doesn't work in paper and pencil, it'll never work in brick and mortar. So that's something to take away and remember. It has to work economically and viability. The other thing that Live Local does is really affordability because of those 40% of the units. I was lucky enough to be the third generation of a grandfather who came down to Miami Beach in the 1920s and finally moved here in 1930. But there's 7 generations of our family, and what we find is that affordability is something that's escaping South Florida. I don't know those of you who read the UBS report more recently, but it had really addressed that issue. And Live Local is one of those laws that really gives the opportunity. So if you're a parent and you live in an expensive home and you want your children to come and stay around you, Live Local actually provides that affordability, because if 40% of those units are at workforce housing levels or 120% of the AMI, it's really builds a community. And at the end of the day, what's the most important thing for a developer is to build a community, because the community is what supports his projects. So we're in most gateway cities to America, and I can tell you that we view it that same way. And we like to be there where there are other builders, other developers, and the municipal government that supports that same concept. So together, we build that community. Because I can tell you that administration, the legislative body, cannot do it without the builders community. It's working together, all of us together, and everyone in this room, that will accomplish a better community for all.
Thank you, Russell. And Kate, with the Murphy Property Group having a strong forte in the office space, could you talk a little bit about why Live Local is so exciting for you all in terms of having synergy with a lot of your office properties and driving tenant bases to really be supported by the persons filling those positions?
Well, definitely. One thing I was just going to touch on was I agree with what my colleagues have said here. The only kind of affordable housing that has been developed in this country, or made in this country, is something that has come with some sort of government incentive in some way, shape, or form. And the reality is a lot of it has become the more functionally obsolete developments. We have programs for renovating those and getting tax credits for those on the federal level, which we've done some work in. But this project, or this Live Local, is something that's creating brand new housing for the missing middle, workforce, whatever you want to call it. But yes, on the office side of things, we all want our people to come to the office, right? If they live in close proximity to the office, they're more likely to come to the office. So we need more affordable housing in downtown Fort Lauderdale and in a lot of urban communities in Florida. One of the things that struck me when I moved back here about 12 years ago was, at which we've been talking about affordable housing for all of these 12 or 13 years, down here, without really, we've had some projects, of course, is that a lot of other communities look at affordable housing as not, our look at affordable housing was, this is all affordable, this is not affordable, is market rate. This is affordable, this is market rate. And a lot of other communities in this country mix them. Live Local is the first legislation of its kind in the state that promotes a mixed affordability, which I think is very important for community, and what Russell is talking about. We don't want a community of where everyone is exactly like us. So.
I'd like to expand on what Kate said, because I think it was very smart. I think, first of all, every panelist here is brilliant in their own way. But I grew up in a community, Miami Beach, that I like to say, I had the school teacher living across from me, I had the police officer living around the block, and I had the nurse 2 blocks away. And our community was really a very well-rounded community. And I grew up with lots of friends who all knew each other's names. And the one thing that places like New York and California have is they have buildings that have these BMR units, which is below market rate units, and that law actually made sense when it was created. So I think community, in order to be well-rounded, works well with all types of people being in that community. And I think that's a very important thing for the legislative bodies to try to accomplish as well.
Yeah, no, mixed income housing, I think traditionally over the course of history in the United States from a housing policy perspective has been most commonly effectuated through 80-20 deals where 80% of the units were market and 20% affordable through the LIHTC, low income housing tax credit program. So to have a private market driven incentive that does create these communities that are mixed income, I think speaks volumes to what can happen when you allow the private market to partake in partnership with localities that are providing this incentive. One thing I just wanted to wrap up with and having each of the panelists say before we go to a brief 5-minute Q&A session is, what do you see for the future of Live Local? You know, we're a little bit more than 2 years since the initial legislation being passed and signed into law back in 2023. If you had a crystal ball, you know, given that now opportunity zones have been made permanent, and that might be an additional incentive to partner and match and marry with Live Local. You have things such as, you know, Duran mentioned, and the Geller Act, all these different tools. What do you see in terms of the future for Live Local? Kate, we'll start with you.
Well, I think, Duran, we have some developments that absolutely make sense to be Live Local developments that are already built. I know there's a window of 5 years, has to be built within the last 5 years. I think if there's any developers in this room that are even thinking about it, I would say explore it, because it does, in certain instances, make sense. I was looking at an older community than that, and to me, those will be the fastest to the market to provide affordable housing, because construction takes time. But I would say that's probably the fastest way to get some of these units out on the market and have the process prove itself.
Thank you. Russell, what do you see for the future of Live Local?
So, you know, I think every time they make amendments to Live Local, they get better and better. And I think the right way to look at it is on a national basis to see what works in other states and other places. And the one thing that California basically doesn't ever get anything right. I just want you to know that. You know, and we really have great legislative bodies, great administrators to our municipalities, and we certainly have one here in Fort Lauderdale. But I will tell you one thing that California did right, and that is they allow off-sites. And I think eventually the state of Florida will allow that as well. So I think that's one change we can expect. I don't know if it's next year or the following year, but eventually it'll happen because it's happened elsewhere. And I just think it's going to continue to get better, because I think communities are going to find those communities that embrace Live Local, move it through the process quickly, will outperform and outdo every other community. They'll create more residents, they'll create a greater community, a greater rounded community. So I think that's really what we would look for and hope for.
Thank you, Russell. Duran?
Well, one topic we haven't really talked about Live Local is the zoning incentives that you have to build a Live Local. I think in Fort Lauderdale, maybe many of the neighborhoods we don't really need, like where we built us out of the river, Tarpon River, you already can go 30 floors up, so it doesn't make a difference. But if you take, let's say, Waynewood in Miami, for example, where all the buildings were limited, most of the buildings were limited to 8 floors. And now you can go build 40 floors if you allocate 40% to Live Local. So you see that most of the new projects in that area are Live Local. And so that's going to create, I believe, a huge wave of new supply into the market. It's also going to affect the value of the older buildings that were built 8 stories with higher rents. Now you have a high rise next to it with subsidized rent, so a lot of people are going to move to that. It's a better product. So that's a big incentive. It's going to change the neighborhood, I think, for the better. I think trying to limit height in modern times in real core urban areas is ridiculous. So I think that kind of bypasses that whole issue.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I think it's quite simple, actually. When you look at Live Local, number one, it becomes clearer. As these amendments are coming to play, we understand it better. As developers, as municipalities understand it better, know how to deal with it. While a lot of projects have been submitted and explored, we see an issue obviously with financing. So the moment I think that we'll see interest rates go down a little bit, I'm not going to touch construction costs because I stopped prophesizing, but I think that we'll see a lot of more buildings, coming off the ground. It will start working better. I would emphasize that I would encourage every developer to work very closely with the city officials, and I would hope to see more and more cities welcome with open arms this process and help developers bring these projects to life and guide them through this process, because I do believe that it's a win-win situation. I do believe that cities will see better mix in terms of what they offer to their residents. I believe that developers will be able to bring these projects to life, and people will see communities that are diverse, that are better communities in centralized locations. So as far as I see it, it's a beautiful mix between the two.
Thank you for that, and since we're going to be wrapping up here shortly, I would just say, again, not only thank you to Stephanie and her team, but also the entire ULI team led by Julie Medley, because the Urban Land Institute, as you can see here today, and is demonstrated across a litany of different conferences that they hold throughout the year. It's really great discussions around not only the topic of Live Local, but affordable housing in general. And so really encourage everyone in this room and your peers and colleagues that if you want to engage more and learn more about Live Local or ask questions, to be a sounding board with one another. It's really special to have the ULI team be supportive in that vein. So really encourage everyone, if you see additional conferences or committees or workshops, and you want to reach out to folks, including myself or others, it's really important to continue to drive the industry forward in this space. So again, want to thank the panelists for being wonderful as always today, and hope everyone enjoys the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was phenomenal. Thank you all so much for an incredible panel. I'd like to now welcome to the stage my DDA boss, Jenny Morahone, President and CEO of the Fort Lauderdale Downtown Development Authority. And it's also my pleasure to invite the panelists for the Next Gen CRE Leaders Panel, Inigo Ardid, Co-President of Key International, Rob Frisbee Jr. with the Frisbee Group. Are you guys making your way from the back? Hi.
He's still getting back. He's doing all the...
David Martin, CEO, co-founder of Terra Group. Nick Perez, President of the Condominium Division of the Related Group. And Kenny Stiles, the CEO of Stiles. So excited to hear this panel. By the way, for those of you that are standing, there are a lot of empty chairs up here in the front if you want to come up and join us. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, my mic. He's good, yeah. He's good. I do too. I'm glad he's not.